Welcome to issue 179 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here, we take a good look at the most critical piece of the game, obviously the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony, and joining me tonight is Steve, Daniel, and Mike.
Well, wasn't that a nice intro? Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, that is our greenhouse keeper for our poison and toxic plants reading our intro. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
Might be the last time he does that based on, his job.
Yeah, we still haven't got any gloves for him. I feel bad. So,
well, they are expensive and you got to get the right kind.
Yeah.
Is it bad if the next person we give a job to is the same job?
It's not bad. It's simply telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what the turnover's like, right?
Well, the pay is really good though. So
Yeah.
it's gonna inspire people, to want the job.
Well, we have some other options too out there. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it was a heartwarming read.
I could talk about Armenians all night, but let's ask Daniel what is on his mind tonight. So, Daniel, what's on your mind tonight?
Steve found this in a box in the attic, labeled "Future Villain Moss Decorations." And remember when we were hunting for our escaped pet mongoose, Carl?
Yes.
And you remember Mike? You remember what happened to Carl? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I saw what happened.
Yeah. Well, so he grew to have, I guess, super marsupial intelligence. He picked the lock in his cage. Well, that's another story for Steve to tell. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't have time for that tonight.
So all this to say, I apologize that we haven't read this 5-star review before because it's kind of old, guys.
It's weirdly dated. Look at the date.
The date says it says 12/05/2023. So in America, where we live, that's actually a date that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But everywhere else in the world, now maybe Canada doesn't do this. Maybe it does, Mike. I don't know. Everywhere else in the world goes day, month, year.
Oh yeah, we're part of the everywhere else in the world.
Okay.
We make fun of you too.
Okay, good. Thank you. So you do metric dating as well? All right.
Yes.
So my guess is that this isn't that old, Steve, but that we live in, since we live in the greatest country in the world, Steve, that does everything right.
It's weird though. I found an email prior to May. Like I had to go way back. All of a sudden this came up. I don't know. It's there's something goofy here.
There's something goofy about this.
Stuff. Okay.
And Marvel, if it's taught us anything, time stuff.
Yeah. Time stuff. Okay.
Okay, so back from May 12th.
Maybe.
It could be either from May 12th or it could be from about 6 months from now.
I like the future.
So this is the future. And in the future, our dear friend and listener, Ray Raimondo, gave us a 5-star review. Would you like to hear it, gentlemen?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I'll put it back in the box and we'll read it in 6 months.
No, maybe we'll read it now.
Okay. This one is called, great title, Critical Acclaim. Yeah? Okay. Ray Raimondo says this: immensely enjoyable show for those who love the living card game and characters of Marvel. Steve, Daniel, and Mike explore in depth the inner machinations of the villains and encounter sets, whilst at the same time making the show fun, informative, and entertaining. Having become a Marvel Champions player, or card game player in general, only a few months ago, it's great to find a podcast where it sounds as if you're in the room with these guys, enjoying the things they do and sharing the fandom. Keep up the great work. Oh, Ray Raimondo, that was lovely.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you so much.
Steve, is that Ray? Ray? I mean Ray Raimondo, but
Oh, it could be Ray from Down Under.
Started the game a few months ago.
Like the Moon Knight podcast that would explain the date.
That would.
Okay.
And I think science has proven that the Southern Hemisphere is about 6 months ahead of us.
That's how it works.
I am
I
so
think that's how it
sorry,
works,
Ray.
right? If you fly south long enough, you go forward in time, yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I heard that somewhere. Oh, but that is a beautiful, beautiful review. Thank you so much, Ray Raimondo.
Yes, thank you.
And he even says our name in what I would call rank order. So I appreciate that.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah, I'm first. Or is it last to first? Yeah, who knows? Daniel's sitting pretty right in the middle.
Yeah.
all right. Well, what are we doing tonight? Because I don't think we've given the listeners any hints.
No, we haven't. Nada. So what we are going to do is one of our Supervillain Roundtables, number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8. So this is a general show. We're going to talk about the RRG. We're going to talk about errata. We're going to talk about state of the game. We're going to answer some listener questions.
Is there going to be a cameo?
There is going to be a cameo. We have somebody that we took over to Spot World, and we had a nice interview with, and we will drop that in. We'll drop a spot in a little later.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so stay tuned. You want to stick around for that. I don't know if we're going to spoil who it is or not. So just listen. Stay
Don't worry,
listening.
he won't go away. He's stuck there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after all of that, we have a contest, and we'll tell you how to participate in that contest right at the end.
Nice. Contests are good. This one is pretty juicy too.
Yes.
The prize. So the RRG 1.5, Steve. What happened in that? What were the noteworthy changes
Yeah, so that came out
to our beloved rules?
Right. That came out somewhat recently. For us, this is fairly recent, right? You want to know what are the bombshells, right?
What are the bombshells? Yeah, well, let's talk about the big changes and how they shift this game around.
Okay. The best one is we got some villain love. Okay. They have errated this. They finally got it right. They have corrected their blatant ignorance and shameful actions against our beloved minion MODOK, and they have finally spelled his name right, adding in the periods between each of the letters in his name.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Now,
Nice.
we all allowed then to take a Sharpie to our cards.
Yeah. Put little dots in. Boop.
Put little dots in. Thank goodness. I've been been waiting years to be able to do that, guys.
I think that's really the big one, but there are a few other ones that I guess maybe we should talk about.
I mean, there's the one that we made happen.
Yeah.
You take
there
credit
is.
for that, even though if it wasn't us, right?
No, it was us, but let's talk about it at the end because it was us. I
Okay.
mean, that's a clear token of our celebrity, what you're talking about, Mike. But can I ask a question? You guys have seen the new Quantumania or whatever, right? The Ant-Man?
I have
Yep.
not.
Oh,
I have.
Steve, wasn't MODOK disturbing?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Like, I really couldn't watch. Like, I went with my daughter who's never seen a Marvel movie. And so there I am. And she and I, it was like late enough in it that like she and I were the only ones in the theater and we're watching MODOK. And she's like, that's just creepy. It doesn't look right. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how they could have done it but it was bizarre and grotesque. And like, I rely on my Disney to get certain things right. And boy, MODOK was a big miss.
Face to face.
That's a face. It's a big face.
Why are you just a floating head?
You left Darren to die in the quantum realm, but the Conqueror found me, made me the ultimate weapon. A mechanized organism designed only for
Well,
killing.
MODOK. It's an acronym. Mechanized organism designed only for killing. Just now noticing the baby legs.
They're not baby legs.
A little bit like a Bjorn.
Oh,
I see this.
The way
freak.
that
Like, it's nightmarish. It's haunted.
yeah, but if you look at his art, normally he has just a giant head with these little tiny limbs.
I
And
get
think
it,
They did a pretty good job of that. So.
But there was something about like the fuzziness of it and the stretchness of his
It was definitely weird.
Yeah. So that's when Lorna and I would just sort of look down and eat popcorn or something.
Probably better for your sleeping habits if you don't look too long at the MODOK.
It was pretty gross. Anyway, sorry for that aside. Keep going. What were the other big changes here?
Okay, so we've got an important change. They kind of changed some of the. There was always a rule that was like, if you're going to play an action, it has to change the state of the game, and then there's some debate on what that means. So now they just made it that you have to have a valid target if you're going to perform an action. Mostly it's common sense. You can't deal damage to a minion if there are no minions, etc. Right?
Sure.
You can't
Now,
thwart if there's no threat out, that kind of thing. So
in what way was that being abused?
I don't know if it was. I think it was mostly clarification
Okay.
because there was some confusion on it.
Because you can get rid of your cards whenever you want anyway. So it's not like you trying to clear your hand, right? Like
Right.
So I don't really understand that one. I was confused by it.
Yeah.
I think they were avoiding another you argument, like what does it mean to change the game, and then 10 pages of what constitutes a change and what doesn't.
Right.
I see.
Yeah. So now it makes sense, right? You have to have a target to perform the action, except because there's always a good exception to any rule. You don't necessarily need a valid target if you're attempting to simply clear a status card. So you can always thwart or attack, even if you don't have a target for that, if you are stunned or confused, because the stun and the confused cards are sort of the target for it.
Right.
Okay.
I'm glad they said that. I would have assumed that anyway. Like you can just punch the air to get rid of stunned. I always thought and all that, but okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's good to say that, but because that actually does change the game state, though. So they almost didn't need to clarify it, but I guess it's good they did.
Yeah.
So,
all right. But part of that change has almost sort of, I guess it has technically broken She-Hulk's superhuman strength card.
Oh.
Have you seen this floating around out there at all?
No.
All right. Okay. So I don't necessarily approve of these heroes cheating because they are now really cheating. So because you have to have a valid target for the whole card to resolve. This is a arrow issue. Okay, after She-Hulk, this is She-Hulk's thing. She gets +2 attack as a constant ability, and then her force response is after She-Hulk attacks, discard superhuman strength. Arrow, stun the attacked enemy. So if the enemy is already stunned, you do not have a valid target to stun something because it's already stunned. So you don't have to do the whole action, which means you don't have to discard her superhuman strength. It's this weird. I can't do it, so I don't have to kind of thing.
Here's the thing that really needs to be clarified. They should say that things can have multiple stuns and confusions because they already did by making things steady.
Yeah. And
right. And so then this cheaty hero thing actually is worse if something is steady because she actually does have a valid target. So what they should say is you can have as many things as stun and confusion or whatever as you want, and they all clear at the same time. When one clears, they all clear, because that's just too weird to make that a cheaty thing.
Yeah, I think against a steady hero, this would be fine because you could give them the second card and then you'd clear it.
Right.
But against the stalwart hero, against the stalwart villain, you can't stun it, you can't have the card, so you can't perform the action after the arrow, which means you don't do that.
You will get a permanent +2 attack?
+2 attack against a stalwart villain, yes.
How many of those does she have?
2, right?
Yeah, 2.
So she gets a permanent +4 attack.
Right, because the upgrade itself doesn't say limit 1 per character. Yeah. I think it's it's one of those things where you should just play it with the intention of the card, the way it was originally done all the way up till now. I did try a deck that utilized this, and it didn't really work anyways. I couldn't get it going. But yeah, that is a thing that's the one little piece of fallout from.
Or if you're a truly honorable hero, if you only use that card if you can, right?
Yeah.
So
or you just discard it no matter what. Yeah.
Or discard it no matter what, or like you can't even tap the thing if you're fighting a villain that can't be stunned.
Yeah.
Like that it has to result in a stun.
Yeah. It's an odd corner case with
the
rules sort of.
You know what? Yeah. I feel like that's going to happen every time, no matter what. And some super nerd out there is going to find it and make the deck and play it once and then be like, okay, that was fun. I'm glad I did it, but never do it again. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, well. All right. There's some other options. There's some other things too. They clarified permanent and setup, right? These cards don't count towards your deck size. So there's no more debate on what you do with Wolverine's claws. You set everything aside at step 1, and then you return them as the very last step. So they'll never end up in your deck. They don't count towards your deck size. That's really nice. So all that debate is gone. That's fairly minor. They also made a minor clarification on the word choose. So if a card, like a encounter card says choose to take 1 damage or discard a card from your hand. You have to do you have to choose one that you can do completely. If you cannot do either of them completely, you choose the one you can do the most of. And then you kind of work your way down. So it's not insane, but it is a clarification. So here's an interesting one, Mike. Attacks against allies. We talked about this where we were talking about a card that an ally gets targeted for the attack, and anyone could block for that ally. What were we talking about?
I think it was about who takes the undefended attack damage. I don't know. We found some corner case that was odd.
Right. So they did clarify attacks against an ally. Let me just read this one because this one's interesting. So the villain attacks an ally. So some effects will cause a villain or minion to attack an ally directly. When this occurs, an undefended damage from that attack is placed on the ally that was attacked. Okay. Any boost abilities that refer to you refer to the player who controls the attacked ally. Okay. Abilities. So if it's my ally that is being attacked and the boost says you are stunned, my identity is stunned. Okay. Not the ally, but the hero character. Abilities that trigger when the attacking enemy attacks you do not trigger because he did not attack you, he attacked the ally. Okay, that makes sense. But it does say players can defend these attacks as normal by declaring a hero or an ally as the defender, so you could jump in the way. And then if the attack has overkill and defeats an ally, whether that ally was the attacked ally or the defending ally, any excess damage from that attack is dealt to the identity of the player who controlled the defeated ally.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah. So we're going into X-Men. Sabretooth attacks Senator Kelly. You defend Senator Kelly with Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl has 1 hit point left, and there's 5 overkill damage. That 5 overkill damage is done to the identity of, right? It's done to me. It's not done to Senator Kelly, which is a little different. So we had thought that overkill would go. We thought that the overkill would go to the ally that had gotten attacked, but really it doesn't. So.
Oh, interesting.
All right. So there's really only one more update I think that bears any talking about, and that's this about a defense card. Okay, defense cards always been a sore point here, but this one's easy. A player can trigger abilities labeled as a defense outside of an attack if the ability's triggering condition is met. When triggered this way, the player's identity is not considered to have defended an attack. So right off the bat, like out of the core, Captain Marvel's Cosmic Flight says hero interrupt when Captain Marvel would take damage, discard Cosmic Flight, prevent 3 of that damage. Even though it's a defense, you don't have to be in the middle of an attack, but you still have.
There's a lot of cards like that, right? And there's a lot of cards when you take damage and stuff like that. So
some cards say when you take damage from an attack, still can only be used if you're being attacked. Some of them say when you take damage, do this.
Okay, I gotta take a look at this now, because how does that impact the preemptive strike ruling? So someone is attacking you. I play preemptive strike on the villain.
Oh, you're now the defender.
Am I?
Yep. If you take a defense action. Yep. That part hasn't changed. So.
Okay.
But this is more about like damage you're taking that's not necessarily in an attack or combat, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I know. That's great.
I guess that makes sense. But it also keeps you from doing certain things that like need it to be considered an attack for you to do a follow-up thing as a hero or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just kind of gives you a little more options for some of these cards that
sure
do say defense that can be used outside of an attack if you meet the conditions. So.
Right. Where's the energy barrier fall in that?
It's not a defense card.
It's not a defense. It's
a response
to when you take damage, right? So that can be used whenever in the world, right?
Yeah. Right. That's not impacted. It's only cards that have the defense tag.
Okay. Awesome. Okay.
All right. Let's roll into errata. You guys want to talk about some of the errata?
Is there some of, or is there one of?
Oh, there's some of.
Okay, then we should do that. But we have to end with the critical encounters, change the world. Errata.
All right, so let's look at the first one. Cosmo.
Okay.
We know everybody's favorite dog, psychic Russian cosmonaut dog.
Yep.
Yep.
His ability now only targets the player or encounter deck. It doesn't target special decks, so you can't cheat.
Okay,
and,
good.
And just target the invocation deck or the side scheme deck or something like that.
Or the storm deck now. Yeah.
Right, or any deck coming out. So I think that's a good errata.
Okay.
The James Rhodes alter ego identity for War Machine does now say limit once per phase. It always was supposed to. That was just an editing mistake. Okay.
And do you want to remind everyone what his alter ego?
It was shuffle a War Machine card back into your deck.
Okay.
And it didn't say limit once per phase, so you could just shuffle everything right back in.
Well, I played a whole campaign as James Rhodes, and I think in my mind I just read it how it was supposed to be because I never thought to put all my cards back in the deck.
Yeah. Steel Fist coming out of Colossus. They removed the little arrow, which helps clarify all the options. Removing the arrow and just making it if then makes much more sense.
Okay. Do you want to be more specific about that one too? For those of us that maybe haven't memorized.
I don't have it memorized.
Colossus.
I didn't write it down.
Okay. Fair.
It's a hero card. Who knows? We haven't talked about him yet. We could talk about that errata when we get to him, I guess.
Right.
The Miss Marvel ally from the Nova pack returns a card only from your discard pile. No longer can return a card that has been removed from the game.
That was a thing?
That was a thing? Yeah.
The timing was such that yes, but
only
because of the next card that Daniel wants to talk about.
Right.
So they kind of had to errata her because they errated this next one. And Daniel, I know you really want to talk about it.
No. Mike wants to talk about it. I just wanted to keep it for last because it's our celebrity card. So go ahead, Mike.
Go for champions. Because apparently if you play that, say, every round in the entire campaign of Sinister Motos, you don't take damage.
Right.
One could argue it makes the game less fun and interesting.
Yeah, the other interesting part is that we took something like 40 damage one turn that we survived thanks to that card.
Yeah.
A card prevented 40 damage.
Yeah, and with all three of us having access to that card in our decks, we basically, we had the best shield in the game.
Yeah. To be clear, what happens now is you use it and it is removed from the game, which means Miss Marvel can't recycle it.
Right.
Based on her timing window. And
now,
you can't recycle it anyway.
Right. So now, what it also means, and I think they should have further errated it, and I'll tell you why. Because it still can prevent 40 damage, right? I think it should prevent damage to champion heroes, not characters.
I don't know if that changes a whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, it changed your whole board state, Mike.
No, I didn't have champion allies.
Didn't you have 37 champion spiders?
No, they were all
champions.
Oh.
Like whenever that was out, I just took everything undefended.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You're right. Then it wouldn't. I mean, it's still super strong, and you can build around it. I mean, 3 times a game in a game that's going to last 7 rounds.
So that's it's limit 1 per player. So we had 3 of us.
Sure.
3 times a game.
3 of us. So and so we would have easily won just by having it 3 times. I mean, being able to line up turns knowing that 40 damage is not going to happen. You can do all sorts of other bonker stuff, not worrying about certain things. You neuter the villain to such a degree.
Yeah, I think I like though now you don't just use it willy-nilly. You're like, oh, I really got to save my timing on this. And in a solo game, it buys you 1 turn. It's not much different than a tough token, let's say, in a solo game. I mean, maybe because you could be taking a lot of damage. I like that it's removed from the game. It's limit once per deck, and it only works for champions. So it's fairly corner case still now. They had to have eroded it. I think that's smart to have done that. You guys know Maka, right? Maka.
Oh, we love
Maka. Yes.
Yeah. He asks us, what other cheaty hero card should get the go for champions treatment?
Oh,
so is there another hero card that you think should be use it and lose it, like a victory point or remove from the game? Is there something else in there that's super good?
I have 2.
Oh, let's hear them. Okay.
Yeah.
The first one is rapid response. not that recurring allies is necessarily a bad thing, but this kind of took it to a whole new level. The idea that you could use up an ally, have them go away, come back immediately and do a thing again is pretty potent. And I use the Peter Parker ally to, whenever he does something, he readies a web warrior. So he would give me 2 readies just by doing something, dying, coming back, doing something again. That's, I don't know. When that card came out, I was already a little worn out from all the Maria Hill shenanigans and like, oh, there's this card now.
Yeah, I was leery of that one at first too, and it came out with Black Widow, and it didn't seem that big of a deal in her deck, right? But then the fact that it allows for a repeat of the enters play effects,
right,
is another thing. So I mean, maybe it's not limit per. Maybe it gets the same number of copies in a deck, but leaves the game when it's used up, or I don't know.
The allies come in with 1 hit point left, or come in exhausted, or I don't know.
Or come in exhausted would be good, or maybe it's treated like Command Center in that there's uses on it, and then it's gone from the game, and it's limit 1 per deck. Maybe I don't know. There's ways around it, but
yeah.
Or if it just says that maybe it reads that the character never leaves play. So like when the ally would leave play.
Oh yeah.
And they don't get their entering play effect.
Keep it in play, right?
Yeah,
like
damage or something.
Yeah. I don't exactly know the wording of that, but you know what I mean, right? Like it's
maybe
it just basically gets a bonus hit point for a second.
Yep. No, that's good. That's great. Great idea.
What's your other one?
Yeah.
Full Blast. This is Cyclops' thing, where for a cost of 1, when he triggers his Optic Blast, it gets +8 damage, which is a total of 11 damage with Overkill.
And
for
piercing.
1. That's piercing too?
Well, if you pay for it using his visor.
Which you have to.
Yeah. So it really costs you 2 because you have to. Well, you have to put out an upgrade on an enemy.
Oh no, you have to put out a thing that he has in his kit.
Right. You have to put out one of those. Then you have to pay for the Optic Blast. Then you have to pay for the Full Blast.
I agree with you, Mike. On paper, that looks scary. I have played 2 games with someone playing Colossus, and I don't think I've ever seen that card get used.
Cyclops?
Or Cyclops, I mean. I don't think I've ever seen that card get used.
Really?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, there's only one in this deck.
Yeah, at the in-person game that I played at my friendly local game store, I don't think she did it.
Oof. It's the piercing too. Oh yeah, I don't know.
Because there's a lot of setup for it, and there's only one of them. So a lot of times it's a card in your hand waiting to be used, and at some point you're like, I can't wait.
Really?
Because there's setup required. Like you have to have like Steve said, you got to throw a thing down. You got to have the other card. You've got
I'm okay with the way it is.
It's strong.
Hang on. What is the exact requirement of it? Does the enemy has to have an upgrade?
The enemy has to have one of his upgrades on it.
An upgrade on it.
Does it say a Cyclops upgrade or an upgrade?
No, just Cyclops. It's Cyclops' ability. So he has to. You have to have an upgrade on it in order to use Cyclops' Optic Blast ability. Spend 1 resource of any type. Deal 3 damage to an enemy with an upgrade attached. Limit once per round. And then you pay for the Full Blast to upgrade it to 8 damage with Overkill.
Do the villains have upgrades?
No, they have attachments.
We have attachments. Okay, so another. Okay.
Now, Steve, that's not 11 damage. It takes it from 3 to 8, right?
No, it adds.
It adds 8. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's powerful. But like I said, I've not seen him use it. I don't recall it because I feel he would have cheered and felt great. And I don't remember it happening. I think it requires enough setup that it's.
I don't believe that.
Well, the fact there's only 1 in the deck makes it a little better, unless you can somehow go and recur it. So,
I mean, She-Hulk has 1 of her Gamma Slams in the deck.
Yep.
It does 14 and costs 3, and doesn't have Overkill, and doesn't have piercing.
That's why people will say She-Hulk's no good. Well, we all know Cyclops was Caleb's favorite X-Men, so he's got to put something in there. But
I don't know about that. You know what cards I don't like, and and I know that there's going to be apologists for it, and you guys played it, or Steve, you did. I forget the name of it, but it's the one that lets you add up all your traits to do something.
Oh, go all out.
I heard that one. I could tell that was coming.
I hate those cards.
There's
And
two
then
of
when
them.
I watched you play like 19 of them in our campaign, as we're not taking damage and you're thwarting for 30 and hitting, I was like, this is dumb. And it came with the character for whom that would be the most useful thing, right?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah.
Ironheart. Yeah.
Ironheart. I was like, this is horrible. What a horrible card. Because it's not even expensive.
You should see it in Spider-Woman.
Like 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like,
Because there's one that does damage and the one that thwarts.
oh God, Spider-Woman, where you're jacking up your stats anyway, and I don't know. Those cards bother me, and just because they're unlimited in their potency. Like you can't proof them. It's not like add up your stats to a maximum of X, right? And so there's going to be cheaty heroes down the road that can get their stats to bonkers.
All right.
Even normal characters are 6, right? Everyone's just 6.
Pretty close.
For the most part, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like those cards. Those are cheaty. I would make sure that those had just a limit that they don't go above. And maybe it's 8.
Well, do you want to hear my 5?
5? Okay.
5. Okay.
Mhm.
Every single one of Doctor Strange's invocation cards.
Yeah.
Throw a victory point on them, and off we go. We're done. Okay.
Well, then there's really no point in playing him.
That's right. After 5 rounds, you're done. He can go home.
Maybe just get rid of his cape.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to make fun of him a lot too, but for being overpowered, I just don't think he is anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, just go for champions in his deck. Put 3 status cards out, 3 toughs.
Yeah. How about Daniel? How about just Iron Man? When you flip to Iron Man, discard him. It's over. All right. Well, that was the RRG and errata, and a nice question by
Okay,
Mika.
those are good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mika. That's a great question.
So the next one, we were asked to rate our campaigns. So the campaigns are Rise of Red Skull, Galaxy's Most Wanted, Mad Titan Shadows, Sinister Motives, and we haven't done Mutant Genesis, so we're not going to include that.
Oh,
and you
There's
can
one more.
Mojo. Oh, okay. We haven't done Mojo either yet, so let's not rate
Oh,
Mojo yet.
okay.
We're rating 4 boxes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were just asked to rate them. Nobody asked us what the criteria was or anything like that. So, Mike, let's start with you. What are you rating them on? What's your rating system? What are you doing?
Oh, we actually have to say our rating system?
Well, your rating system could be your level of joy.
Okay, level of joy. The top of my list is Sinister Motives.
Okay.
And then let's say Mad Titan Shadow, but it's followed very closely by Galaxy's Most Wanted. I do love that campaign box.
Okay.
And then Rise of Red Skull is near the bottom.
Interesting.
Because it hasn't aged as well. Like even when it came out, it was kind of meh for me. If that's partially theme wise. Like I really like the Galaxy stuff. I like the Spider-Verse stuff.
Yeah.
The Mutant box is probably going to rate lower just because of theme, because I'm just not that into the X-Men. But I also think Sinister Motives is like the most solid campaign release so far.
Interesting. Okay.
Daniel, you have your 4 rated?
Yes. I'll start bottom up.
Ooh, okay.
So between 3 and 4 is a gulf of about 27 kilometers. There you go, Mike. Canadian measurements.
Do you even know how big that is?
Like 35 miles. Okay.
Isn't it the other way around? Isn't it like 18 miles?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, because if you drive 55 miles an hour, that's 100 kilometers in the. Yeah. So does your car, Steve, have a kilometer thing on it as well as the miles?
It does, yeah.
Why? Doesn't it bother you? Like,
in case I drive across the border.
Right. Like it almost forces us to drive to Canada sometime.
I mean, we have miles on our cars because we might accidentally drive south.
Avoid the fires.
Yeah, you'd be just a mess. All right. So I'm sorry. So at the very bottom for me is Galaxy's Most Wanted. I just don't enjoy it. I want to. I think another problem with that box. Can I tell you my main problem with that box?
Yeah, that's why we're here.
I don't care for the heroes that came in it. There, I said it.
Rocket and Groot, you got it.
Like I thought that wasn't exciting for me. Like Gamora and Star-Lord would have been, or something like that. But that, and I, you got to get a bad taste in your mouth from Ronan. It's just, it's pointlessly hard and no fun.
Hang on, let me sharpen my pitchfork.
Please do. Then next is Red Skull. I like it. I am fond of it because it was the first. Like I like that.
Okay.
Then Sinister Motives. Then I really love Mad Titan's Shadow.
Oh, excellent.
I think it's got the twisty poo of Thanos being the third, not the fifth. I think it's got a lot of Norse stuff, and I'm into that. I absolutely love how different the scenarios are in terms of their builds and what you're doing. Like yes, we've talked about some failings and limitations, say with Hela and stuff like that, but even with the stupid Infinity Gauntlet, I like that one the best.
Okay.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Hey, Daniel.
Well, no, I mean, think about it, right? Like the one with the two villains, that was great. I think Ebony Maw is a fantastic starter villain. Tramping through Hela, that was awesome.
But Drang, Nebula, Collector 2.
Oh no, Collector. Okay, Collector 2 getting like busting out of the museum, great. The other Collector one, horrible. Zero fun had.
That's because you like playing stuff.
It's difficult.
Isn't it weird that in a card game about playing stuff, I want to do that? Yeah. Love being disincentivized to do that because that's fun.
Oh, you can play it. You just can't lose it.
God.
And you wonder why I don't play Allies.
Yeah. Well, you've been burned by Collector. Yeah. So there was three scenarios in that box where I'm like, this is just no fun. So yeah.
Okay.
That's me.
Well, let's hear what Steve has to say.
Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom as well, and I'm right there with Daniel. Galaxy's Most Wanted is my number 4.
So that makes our opinion correct, Steve.
Oh my gosh.
We have to choose the number 4.
Who are you people?
I've chosen Galaxy's Most Wanted. Now, I really enjoy Rocket. Don't really dig Groot, okay? I do like Drang. I think that's great. Ronan, I have a bad taste in my mouth with Ronan. And Nebula, too, is very difficult, but can be very fun. She's swingy. Yeah, I still enjoy Nebula, although a lot of people I know don't.
I love playing her hero.
Yes.
She's fun.
Yep,
Yeah.
She's fun. Collector 2 is fine. I like Collector 2. I don't even mind Collector 1 that much. What rates it number 4 for me beyond the Ronan piece is I'm not a huge fan of the market. So in a campaign, I end up buying the same cards every time I play the campaign. I don't, for whatever reason, I get stuck in a rut, and I don't branch out like I should. I don't know. So
because you don't play Groot.
Yeah, that's why I don't play Groot. But
Jing.
Nice.
He leaves them in the box.
Yes. Oh,
nice.
These jokes are getting corny.
All right. Yeah, no, Steve, that's a great point about the market. Like that is the least fun of all the campaign.
Yeah, for me, right? I mean, some people are going to love it. Mike likes it. It's great. I think that speaks well for the game that people can have these different opinions.
Well, I disagree with that, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Number 3. Well, number 3, Daniel, is Mad Titan's Shadow.
Well, that's fair.
Okay. So I really love the twist of Thanos being in the middle. The campaign itself was fine, hit this thing in game and get this reward. All that was good. I didn't dislike the heroes that came with it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the villains, I will go back and play those villains. Hela is a lot of fun, whatever. But Mad Titan Shadow hits number 3 for me, with a close runner-up for me being Rise of Red Skull as my number 2.
Interesting. Okay, great.
Yeah. So as you can tell, we all have, and so Sinister Motives is my number 1. We all have different ratings here, but I think I put Rise of Red Skull number 2, maybe out of nostalgia. I play Crossbones like crazy. I still really like Crossbones. Red Skull's a lot of fun. I like the campaign. I like the do the thing, get the reward for later on. Those are it plays fine. I think it still holds up. Zola is a ton of fun. I also have very fond memories of a song of Zola. So I think Rise of Red Skull is number 2, and then that makes Sinister Motives my number 1. And that campaign is just really good. I really enjoyed the Web Warriors and the Champion stuff we got. The campaign, the reputation track, we talked about that all recently. Just that version of the campaign I really like the most, so I make that my number 1.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. I didn't think about rating them by song that was generated from them.
Oh. Okay, so we have Zola.
Just you saying I peaked.
Yeah. Mysterio. Oh, that was great. Born
in Denial.
Yep. And then Loki's back. So
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Another short blip of a song. Mike, what was that one?
Oh, we did the Ship Command song. Just a teaser for it. Yep. All right, so that's our campaign ratings. Hopefully, people will send us their ratings later.
Yeah, I want that. I want to hear. Yep. I want to hear how people think that I'm right. Because I bet Mike, I love and appreciate you in all ways. I think that you are
except my opinion.
In the minority about Galaxy's Most Wanted.
I probably am.
Yeah,
but whatever.
That's going to be most everybody's least favorite campaign.
Well, I will sit here in the corner and enjoy it.
You're going to be one of those cool kids that was, really knows. Right.
Yep.
All right. I'll just be hopping back on the bandwagon. That's all right. All right. Go ahead. What's our next question, Steve?
Oh, okay. So we were asked, and I don't know who asked us this. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't write down who actually asked us. But somebody wants to know what was the most successful, in quotes, encounter we had in this wave or the volume that we're recording, right? Volume 4. Our most successful encounter. Oh, easy. Go.
Well, I've already said it on air. It's Mysterio. It's the greatest scenario ever created.
Now, is that what encounter means in this case? Scenario?
That's what I assumed it was.
Is that what we're calling that? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't detailed enough to really...
Sure. Okay.
Say one
okay,
way or
but
other.
if you want to say the other, we're going to go Mysterio with Iron Spider, Sinister Six.
Okay.
Now you have both.
Okay.
It's all I'm going to play from now on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have mine. I'm going to go next here. And I took this as the most successful encounter being like just a one-time sit down and play, like my most enjoyable game here. And this was also with Mysterio, okay?
Okay.
Using Personal Nightmare that comes with him, and Rogue's Nemesis, Mystique. Playing with Board Game Lawyer, sorry guys, my Star-Lord deck.
Wow, Mike.
Playing with my Star-Lord deck, where Mysterio threw a whopping 43 encounter cards at me in only 3 villain phases, and then Mysterio still lost. But that was an insane game. That was so much fun playing with Mysterio and Mystique with Star-Lord. So
did you sliding shot for 43?
Yeah, it was like 2 sliding shots for 20 or something at the end. It was insane. You can go back to our YouTube channel. You can look on our playlist. It's under the week 6 for MCM organized play challenges. I'll link it down below if you haven't watched it. It was so much fun. And just watching Mysterio and Mystique just pile cards on and Star-Lord, just take them. It was a ton of fun, even though Star-Lord did win. So. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It was great seeing the screenshot that didn't fit the cards.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, that's impressive. All right.
That was insane.
Wow.
All right, what's yours, Daniel?
Well, I really like the one where you're running down the hall and 6 different dudes are beating on you.
Okay.
Really?
I'll tell you why I think it's most successful. I think it's most successful thematically. I wish it were also equally successful mechanically. And we talked a lot about it. We've already discussed this one and all of our opinions on it. I think like the first Norman Osborn one, a tweak or two could make it absolutely incredible.
Right.
As we discussed, but I love the idea of that gauntlet. It's just sort of like, because it's heroes on the run, and I love that. It's the same reason I liked Collector 2 ultimately, right? It's like it's a different way of winning,
Different story,
different
Hella's.
story,
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just like you're trying to get out, like you're sort of like you're playing from like a position of fear, not necessarily a position of like we're heroes, right? You're hightailing it because you're getting your butt kicked. It's just like all the scenarios that have a great idea. And this might be something we should talk about at some point, because there's a couple of scenarios that have a different way of winning and all those kinds of things. They have really cool ideas. There's just something mechanically that keeps them from working because people can game them.
Yep.
And coming up with ways to prevent that might be the next new wave of errata that I want to see.
Okay, cool.
But I love it in theory. I love the idea of it. These things jumping at you over and over and it moves around. Love it.
All right. Next. Here's a fun one. Daniel is going to go first on this.
Yep.
What gimmick should get a second chance?
Well, I kind of hinted at it just now in a sense. Norman Osborn, the idea of a villain with an alter ego.
Okay. Yes.
They have them in the stories. They should have them in the game. I love an alter ego and a villain that are each trying to do a little something, and maybe if they could even win in two different ways, that would be cool. But I like the idea of the encounter set, or the villain can win more than we lose. Does that make sense? Like they're trying to do a thing, and it's sort of like already it's sort of like their main agenda cards, but something about other things that they're trying to do is really cool to me. So that's me.
How about you, Mike?
Well, folks might think that I was going to say encounter cards in the player deck, because that is a big part of why Mysterio paces so well. But that's already been done in Mystique, and then we saw what Star-Lord did. So I'm going to go with vehicles, because we saw them once as spaceships in Galaxy's Most Wanted. There's lots of vehicles. Every team has a vehicle of some sort. The villains all have certain things. It offers lots of options. The idea of having the ship that the first player could do and the team would have to figure out amongst themselves who gets the benefit this turn just opens up neat possibilities. And if the villain has fun stuff too, all the better.
Yeah, nice.
And you, Steve?
I have a villain and a hero option. For villains, I'd love to see more special encounter decks. Like we have Red Skull Sides game deck, so we need somebody's all minion deck, right? Like a deck just loaded with minions, and something happens, and they all just pop out and attack you or whatever. So I'd love to see more little side decks like that the villain might have. And then for the hero, I'd love to see some more press your luck sort of stuff. Not necessarily like more encounter cards, but they sort of showed this with Archangel coming up, where his hero card has a hazard icon on it or something like that. So I'd love to see more of those cards that you want to have, but they do something bad for you also. Like the Venom suit, the Venom ally, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
It has an acceleration icon, by the way.
Oh, what? Yeah, there you go. All right, so the next question is, which minion should get upgraded to a villain?
I've been saying this one since the beginning of the game. Madam Hydra.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And Mystique. Having just researched Mystique for an upcoming show, I love her. I think she's great. I can't believe she's not a villain.
Yeah.
So there. Those are mine.
Mike?
I was going to go with another Madame Mask.
Okay.
I don't know too much about her. I mean, she doesn't have superpowers, but she's very strategic. She's got lots of clones or robot clones or something. I don't know. She seems like the type of villain who's not just Hulk smash or Abomination smash.
Right.
I think you could do something neat with her.
I
That,
thought you were
or
gonna
if
say
you,
that
if you want to
white
go that
rabbit
way.
thing, Mike.
Hmm?
I thought you were going to say the white rabbit.
I don't want the white rabbit. That would just be disturbing. My runner-up was the Kraken.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you wanted something really big, you'd have the Kraken
Yeah.
with his cultists, and yeah.
Who's the guy in the Potomac? He'd be good then.
The sleeper.
The sleeper. Yeah. All right.
All right, so mine is recently eroded the mental organism designed only for killing. MODOK. We need MODOK
Nice.
and AIM. We don't have any AIM cards in this
That's
game. That is
true.
like a huge, huge piece of the Marvel, canon.
Mm.
So MODOK and AIM would be great. And if not, Doc Octopus. I think he's a huge enough character. He should have his own scenario. So
We don't even have a Brodok card yet.
Brodok.
Brodok.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I remember
The biorobotic organism designed only for kissing.
Yes. Oh my god.
He was in one issue of the West Coast Avengers.
Oh my god.
Wait, Mike.
He was a surfer dude with a big head.
This is
Yeah.
another one of your pranks that I'm going to
Nope.
read on here at some point.
Nope.
Okay.
He's legit. He's legit.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that.
I'm gonna keep bringing him up.
Wow.
All right, shall we move on?
Yeah, we'll move on. All right. That question was posed to us. Should more of the spend resource type to remove cards require printed icons to remove?
Yes, great question. Okay, let's move on. I mean, yes.
No, I think being able to use a wild is nice because what else are you using a wild for? But I think more of them should say spend them from your hand, so you can't use those resource generators for them.
Oh yeah, good one.
Okay. I feel like we disappointed whoever asked that. That's a
Yeah. Sorry, folks. All right, so for scenarios with multiple villains, should they all be able to activate instead of just the active villain? What are the rest of them doing?
Well, clearly this person hasn't played the old RPGs. They're waiting their turn.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's right. This is a turn-based game.
I say yes, they should. Wake up, you lazy bums. What else are they doing?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we could fix that with one card. We could have like a guy with a big whip, and in his text could say force response whenever a villain attacks, every other villain attacks.
There you go.
Done. One card fixes everything.
Well,
It'll be Steve with a whip.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Good old classic Tolkien song.
Tolkien
Right.
song. Yep.
Yeah, definitely one he wrote.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, we don't want to go to war today. But the Lord of the Lashes says, nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way.
Well, I wouldn't.
I think it'd be very hard to manage, super fiddly, but it could be nice in like a multiplayer game where different villains are activating against different players somehow. Instead,
Well, I guess what you would have to do is sort of like the Kang way of
right.
each villain engages a separate hero. So that would be cool.
Yeah,
right? Like you
that'd
sort of
be neat.
have your own villain and that villain's encounter. Like if Wrecking Crew, for example, didn't have active villains, but like in a 4-player game, like the beginning of the hero phase, each hero selects a different villain to be up against kind of thing. That could be cool that you're sort of mano-a-manoing the bad guys, but
Yeah, you take out the Wrecker, I'll handle Thunderball, that kind of thing. Yeah.
like
Yep.
I don't know how else you do it other than creating your own staging area, sort of, as it were. Now I want one of you smart guys to make that scenario where you do that.
Crickets.
Well, you weren't. Yeah, I was gonna say you're not talking to us. So
I am talking to you,
all
the
right.
guys who make cards.
So, favorite. I'm just gonna move on. We are asked about our favorite nemesis. So, who are our favorite nemesis for theme, for power, that kind of thing, right?
How
Can you-
far back
whatever-
are we going?
Yeah, I'm going to need a moment to look back at the Nemesis sets from this.
Okay, I'll give you 2.
All right,
You
I
guys
have
know what
some-
I'm going to say for theme. You already know.
Okay. Magus.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's go with which one I want to see against the heroes more. It's the Green Gobbler
Nice. He's
for
good.
getting rid of all the tokens. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So for theme, I ranked mine a couple different ways. Theme, I love Spider-Ham's Green Gobbler. He was right on my first. That was the first one I wrote down. But I really liked Thor, like Loki's nemesis. I thought he was great.
He's
for
good.
theme. And then how could I not say LL Cool J, the living laser for War Machine? Awesome theme. Amazing theme with the light show and everything. Really fun. So for power though, I chose Quicksilver, Avalanche. He's got a ton of insight
Avalanche
and a
is
lot of
great.
excitement. Yeah, he's really powerful. And Valkyrie's nemesis set just devastates her. She is so good against Valkyrie, who already kind of is hard to use. The Enchantress versus Valkyrie is just great.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I think the most powerful out there, or one that is a game changer in a lot of ways, Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun.
Now, I'm not sure if we're allowed to talk about her, Steve.
Sure, we can.
But oh my goodness. So I've played a lot of Phoenix when she first came out, and like I did not like seeing Shadow of the Past. It scared me.
Yeah.
And then
definitely.
theme-wise, I love how Nebula and Gamora are each other's nemesis.
Yeah, that's a ton of fun.
I think that's great. I love it.
If we had to choose a nemesis set to get redone, I would love it if they redid Doctor Strange, because Baron Mordo is like nothing. It impacts him in almost no way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The Prowler would be a good one on that list.
Yep. I'd almost like to see Ironheart's nemesis get done as a regular modular set with Lucia Von Badass. So
Yeah.
She's a fun set. It's just you don't get to see her often. So
I mean, there's been a number of heroes where we're like, why on earth is that their nemesis, right? And so,
yep.
Like Spider and things like that. But
all right, well, that's like all the questions and whatnot. So we just want to talk a little bit our thoughts on the state of the game, our thoughts heading into mutants, what we're excited for, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So we have finished Sinister Motives. We're going into the mutant wave. We're going into X-Men with Mojo and Mutant Genesis, and Next Evolution is on the horizon. We'll talk about in a year.
Is that the thing that is called X Factor or X something else?
Yeah, the X Factor guys. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about where we're at now. How is the game? Are we still interested? Is it fun? What's the state of this game for you right now?
Well, I'll start. Just this last weekend, Becky and Andy and I, we got back into our campaigning, and we got our butts kicked by the Sentinels, and that was great. So I still think it's super fun. I'm having a blast. There's so much stuff now that you really can make the game the thing that you need it to be. I think if you're a really good player, you can challenge yourself. Just the levels of gameplay that are allowed it's really significantly awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I need this particular challenge, or I want to try a deck against this particular kind of thing. The card pool is such that you can basically make this game whatever you need it to be, and I love it.
That seems fair. I agree. There's a ton of customization that you can do. Hero decks, I think there's so many cards. For a long time, it was sort of, here's my aggression deck, and it was the same thing, no matter what you put it in. But, you can really change things up, I think.
Yeah, and along those lines, like, the staple cards are not quite as...
Stapley?
I don't know. Intrusive as they are in other games. What did you say, Mike?
Stapley.
Yeah. Like, I don't think every aggression deck doesn't need combat training, or doesn't need, like...
Right, you're not putting Avengers Mansion in everywhere like you would for a long time. Yeah. And I think that speaks well of the game, about there not necessarily being power creep, but just different choices and different options. It's still having fun. So I'm still enjoying everything where we're at. Looking forward, moving forward with the mutants. But Mike, what about you? What do you think about where we're at?
I'll echo what you guys say. The hero cards, I mean, it's at the point now where the amount of heroes is starting to overload me. So, I mean, the encounters are still very interesting, and I'm still excited for the X Factor stuff. Mutants, but the X Factor stuff looks pretty cool. And I will admit that the heroes actually look pretty good in that box too. Yeah, we'll see. The game's still exciting me, right? So if the hype's still there, then I'm still in it.
Yeah, you can get a little hero overload. You're right. There's like how many 40 plus heroes out there? We have this odd soft reset, let's call it, where we're going into mutants and we've got a bunch of reprints, right? Like we have Endurance with new art on it. So it feels like we're at this point where you can start with X-Men or stop before X-Men. It's this weird piece where like I want to build X-Men decks, but I don't really want to use Avenger cards or Champion cards. I just want to build X-Men with it. So that's an interesting place to be. Not that you can't just mix the whole card pool together and have these great decks. That for a little while, to be honest, was a little overwhelming. It was like, boy, I gotta just make mutants with mutant cards, and only play with the cards that came in the mutant box. But I kind of put that restraint on myself, and I don't need to do that. I fall into I fall in like, well, I'm just gonna play the hero I'm comfortable with. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna play Star-Lord again, or I'm gonna play Rocket one more time, or I'm gonna dig out Iron Man just to make Daniel upset or whatever. But like, even though he's not, it's a solo game, he's nowhere near my kitchen table.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do
as long as your intentions are pure, everything's
right.
fine.
Oh, good, yeah. I had to make myself for a little while, like just try the new guys, play the new guys. Oh, and they're fun, and we'll talk about them going forward. So
yeah.
It's an interesting spot for new players to jump in. I think it's a good spot for players to jump in because they can get a core and they can just buy mutants and they don't have to go back if they don't want to. But they can,
right.
And most people seem to do that anyway.
I don't think, and I don't think the decision to do that is as devastating in terms of like power decks as it might be in other living card games.
Agreed.
Like, oh, well, you'll never win if you don't have the Nova box with that one card in the back. Like I think you really can do a core set for all the stuff you need in the core set. And then I'll go X-Men and then I'll do that wave. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine.
That's a great point. I hadn't really considered because, they're reprinting the Lord of the Rings stuff and you're talking about, oh, I can play against Karn Doom, but I don't have key cards for my dwarf deck or my this deck or my whatever deck because I haven't reprinted them. That does not happen in this game, I don't think.
It doesn't happen. It's because of Mike saying that the staples aren't the stapley.
Right.
And each hero has their kit. Like, the best cards the hero has are generally their cards.
Yeah.
Full Blast is a Cyclops card.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have to hunt down Full Blast by buying a Thor pack that you don't really want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can't find or whatever. Yeah.
Like each of the waves is set that way, right? Like, well, I like Spider People. All right, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And the designers, I think, have been really great about like theming their cards in the waves, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. You are not forced to buy a whole collection for a card in a random scenario pack or something. That said, it's nice to have every card.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a big fat collection in the basement. Yeah.
Yeah, bust out those cards and use them. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Well, I mean, do you guys have anything else to add about moving forward or looking ahead?
So, Mike for sure has said, Mike, you're not all that excited about X-Men and mutants and all that stuff. And I get that. But I had never really heard of these things until 1980 something when TSR had, they obviously made D&D and then they made a game called Star Frontiers and I played a lot of that. But then they also had a role-playing game about superheroes and it might have been something like Villains and Vigilantes or something like that, or just
and Masterminds,
or it was actually just Marvel superheroes. But anyway, the whole point was I never heard of any of these guys. The first superhero I had ever heard of, other than like this people like Superman and Spider-Man, like was Wolverine. I'd never heard of anything. And then there's the X-Men. And in this game, they were featured quite highly because it's a Marvel specific thing. And you got to make your own superheroes and their strengths and weaknesses. It was a fantastic game. It had a great core set. But yeah, I remember like playing that in 1983 or something. And like the X-Men were a big part of that game. And so
I've had this discussion before.
To see Wolverine is fascinating, like he and I go way back.
Yeah, I did watch the cartoons. I have the only comic books I own are X-Men, but I can't quite remember them. But yeah, this is gonna be fun going forward. Rereading and getting into the X-Men stuff, and I've already started doing my research for shows, and I noticed that there's less of the early comic book thought bubbles, where the hero has to monologue for the reader through the whole thing. Yeah, because it's a team, and they just talk to each other. They'll be like, go over there and push the button while I kill this guy. It's like, oh, thank goodness. So, yeah, that part's really nice.
But I'm guessing there's a telepathic hero that has the thought bubble that he communicates to other ones. I hope so.
Yeah, Professor X. the very first X-Men, it is him. He does say, now that you can hear my thoughts, I will not talk to you for the next 15 pages.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's a point where he goes, now I'll speak to you because we finished our training or something like that. Yeah. It's pretty good. I have one piece of, I don't know, business, I guess I just want to comment on before we get on to the next stuff. Our outro music. It is a beloved piece of outro music. However, there is some copyright issues with it. And yeah, we're not being pinged or fined or anything like that. But it does, YouTube, when we post our videos, does make an issue about it. It is the Doc Ock outro music that everybody likes. I really like it. So you may hear, moving forward, some different outro music, just so we can alleviate that with the Patreon and everything else. I don't want there to be any problems. So
it's just going to be Zola from here on out?
Yeah. I'm mixing it with just Mysterio. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Chaotic.
Yeah.
Mind meld.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to attempt to match them up, kind of, so it has the same vibe. It's been difficult because I really just want to keep using it. So you might hear different music and know that you aren't going insane, and that's why we're doing it. I mean, you might be going insane, but not.
I was going to say, if you are going insane, it's not because of that.
It's not because of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, what's next? What is that over there? Is that
yeah. So whenever we have guests on, I jot notes and I throw them in this pile. And I was going through the pile, and we had asked some guests about the future, which that might be now, won't it? So I like to ask guests, hey, what are you excited for? Just, you don't have to tell us because you're not supposed to, but what do you want us to, what are you most excited to see?
Well, Mike, you know that Ray Mondo already knows these.
Oh, because he's from the future.
Because he's from the future, so. It won't be a surprise for you, Ray. But the rest of us, go ahead. Mike.
I know, metric. It's magic. It's magic. I know.
Sorry, forgive me.
So I say, what do you want us to see? What are you most excited for us to open up? And Caleb, when we asked him about a year ago, this would have been right after Christmas. He said that that's half a year ago. And my timing's off.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Okay, so back in January, I think we had our interview with Caleb, and he said that he was most excited for the box after Sinister Motives, and that makes sense because it's his Magneto box. That is his Mutant Genesis.
Yes.
Now the other one is actually still in the future because I asked Molly Glover, and she said, now I have to try to interpret this. She said, after Sinister Motives, there's a thing and a cycle. Then there's another thing and a cycle after that. It's the last thing of that cycle.
Okay, so doing the calendar, if you carry the 3,
yeah,
you deduct for Kang, and you add in the Quantum
Do you
Mania.
add Mojo? Is Mojo a thing?
No, it's not Mojo.
No.
I
Is she
straight up-
the thing and then the cycle?
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
I think they haven't shown it to us yet, but they will show it to us at the end of the next evolution.
Okay, that's
So-
because it's like the last thing of the X-Force cycle.
I think
Or
that's
the X
correct.
Factor.
Yeah, doing the math, I think that's right.
All right, so
Whatever.
I've been waiting.
that
I've been
means.
waiting half a year now.
I think you're going to wait another year.
Yeah,
Well,
and I think
Molly,
it's
it's
because
been a
she had.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was no. I did her interview last December.
Was it a villainous bit? Yes.
It was either Villainous or it was a lead in to our year-end roundup. But the reason is because she had just done the art briefs for that, and she was looking through them, and because she's producer on that, and she was really excited for it.
So you should be excited too. listener.
I am, yeah, absolutely.
I am. Yeah.
And you, listener, yes.
Don't disappoint me, Molly.
Wow. We need her back on the show, Steve.
Yeah. That's a good call. Maybe we'll wait till that
Right.
thing is announced,
Yeah.
and then we'll get her on.
Like, why am I on this show?
All right. Now, Steve, I remember earlier you said something about a contest.
Wait. I think we have somebody locked in Spot World we have to talk to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to stretch my
Oh.
legs. Steve,
Yeah.
you want to go for an adventure?
Yeah, Daniel, stay here.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Wait, what?
Okay, well, here we are in Spot World with Caleb. Hi, Caleb.
Hi.
So this is where you've been.
Yeah, this is a nice place to hide away.
Yeah, I like it. Spider-Man can't sense you here. This is great.
Yeah, Daniel doesn't know where we are. It's really nice to get away from him too.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's been a little while, hey?
It's been a minute, yeah.
I think the last time we had you on, I asked you a question. And Steve, you'll have to maybe cut and rearrange this. But I asked you a question. I said, what are you most excited for us to open? And you coyly said the campaign box after Sinister Motives. And I guess now we know why. It's the Magneto box.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
I think it kind of has.
Last time you were on was issue 101, I guess. That's like 70 episodes ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Well, for those of you who've been living on some other universe for the past little while and don't know who we're talking to, this is Caleb Grace, and his name is on the box of the game that we talk about. So you designed this along with Nate French.
That's right. Yeah, the core design was done by Nate French, Michael Boggs, and myself.
That's right.
And then Nate was promoted to executive game designer at the studio, which was always the plan from the beginning of Marvel Champions. So Michael Boggs and I took over the development of the line. We initiated sort of our leapfrog approach to the game where, I'm working on one wave and he's working on the next. And then when I'm done, I leap over him to work on the next one after the one he's working on, and so on. And then Boggs, he got married, and there was that's a whole story. His wife came to live with him, and then COVID happened, and his wife decided it was like best if she moved back home, and then he wanted to join her, and that took some time, but thankfully he was finally able to do that. And right around that time is when Tony joined the team, and there was a little bit of overlap there where there were three of us on the team again for a brief spell, and that was exciting to have Tony working with me and Michael Boggs. Gave Tony a great chance to get kind of trained up, and so he did the Mojo scenario with some help from Boggs, and Boggs did some initial design work for the Next Evolution box, which Tony then took over and did all the the fleshing out the designs and developing it and playtesting and all of that. And that's kind of where we are now. It's just me and Tony on the line.
Oh, so you are still on the line. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a temporary departure you took.
Yeah, never actually departed. Just I had a little extra time. As I said, there was this unexpected boon. What was sad, like I said, Michael Boggs was trying to relocate to be with his wife, which we were all rooting for him. But because of COVID, because of travel restrictions, like just every time he thought he had his ducks in a row, they would move the goalpost, and so he ended up staying with us for like I can't even remember how long. It must have been almost a year, like longer than he thought he was going to stay. And as a result, we had more people on the line for that year than we were accustomed to, which gave us the bandwidth, like I said, for Tony to do the Mojo Mania scenario pack, which wasn't originally on the schedule. It was like, hey, we've got another developer, let's do a scenario pack. And then, pardon me, because Michael Boggs was there and he's so good at what he does, I was able to sort of hand off some things to him kind of briefly to go and work on a different project, the deck building game that I created. Like Boggs made that possible for me to do that, but I was always in touch with the Marvel team, so that I was always, up to speed with what everybody was doing. And the plan was always then, like, once I launched that other game, that I would be back on Champions.
They just made you work on 2 games at once, it sounds like.
Well, it was actually my idea. I don't want to go too deep into that, but that was the deck building game was something that I had come up with and that I pitched, and it just it was serendipity that all the things lined up that allowed me to do it without Marvel skipping a beat.
Well, both games are great, so I'm glad that worked out for you and for all of us fans of the games.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was a busy year. I could say that. It was a very busy year.
So if there wasn't any COVID, we wouldn't have a Mojo pack?
Potentially, obviously, if the conversation, if it wasn't for COVID, could mean a lot of different things.
Dang.
But it was really,
I don't want to think about that world.
Yeah, it was really the fact that Boggs ended up sticking around a little longer, and it just allowed us to take on a little bit more, and that was, we made the best of it. Obviously he was kind of bummed, that he wanted to be with his wife, and it was a real challenge, but at the same time he made the best of it. He's really a hardworking guy, even with one foot out the door, so to speak. He was really making the most of it, and it was cool to see Tony come on board at that time. And how the dynamic, naturally changes, because Boggs and I had a pretty good rapport by that time. I think we'd fallen into a pretty comfortable rhythm. And then having Tony come on board, it was fun because I know Tony, and we go back a ways, so I was pretty confident that we would work well together. But it was actually really fun to watch Tony and Boggs work together, and I'm glad that Tony had that experience to work with Boggs while he was still here. Because I'm sure he gleaned a lot from him that he just couldn't get from me because, we're 2 different people.
Right.
Yeah, the Mojo pack has been great. Look forward to seeing the next Evolution stuff that has Tony's name on it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only bad thing about having Tony on the team is just, it's like the same thing about having Boggs on the team. It just makes me insecure about my stuff because these guys are just pros. They just constantly raise the bar for like, oh, look at that thing you did, Caleb. That's cute. Watch this. Like, oh, doggone it, guys. Give me a chance.
Hey, why do you think Daniel's not on tonight?
Yeah, no, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches sometimes working at FFG. There's a lot of really talented people that I get to rub elbows with, and it is inspiring and intimidating all at once.
All right.
That's good for us players.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, I think that is what you want, right? Is you want designers who are constantly challenged to be more creative and do better and come up with more outside the box, ideas, because everyone around them is doing it. You don't necessarily want a studio of everyone just kind of phoning it in, right?
Yep. And then the leapfrog model is interesting because it means the players get back-to-back boxes that don't feel the same just by nature.
Yeah.
Was that I don't suppose that was intentional. It's probably just the way the development cycle works.
Yes and no. I mean, there was a very conscious degree of intentionality in that, the way we chose to break that up. There's other ways that you could divide the labor. Other companies, studios, they might do like one person's the designer and one person's the developer. So the designer's always creating the vision and coming up with the initial designs and then handing it off to the developer. In which case, I think you might see more similarity between each product because it's always the same designer. Whereas we didn't do it that way, right? We did two different designers, and the designer also develops their own products. So I don't design something traditionally and hand it off to Boggs. That was like kind of a one-time thing because Tony was on board at that time too. But the rest of the time, it was a choice we made that we didn't want all our products to feel the same. I think even as much as we push ourselves, every designer has certain, personality quirks or characteristics that kind of work themselves into the products that we make.
We're starting to pick those up.
Yeah, like that was the funny thing. Like I had a playtester, a good friend of mine, Mike Strunk, back from my Lord of the Rings days, who told me at one time after working with me for a couple of years, he's like, I can tell just without even knowing whose name is on it. He's like, I can tell which ones are yours, which ones are MJ's. Like you just design differently, and that was kind of telling, kind of eye opening. Like, oh, I've got a noticeable style. I wasn't even aware of that myself at the time.
Luckily, that style is just great.
Well, that works out. So. Yeah, I'm glad because I'm still not sure awesome. Exactly what that style is, because it's just such a part of just who I am that it's not necessarily like a conscious thing. So, yeah, if it didn't work, that would be tough to figure out how to do it different.
Well, we're talking about some styles and designs. I'm curious. So we have like 40 some heroes, and what is it now? We're going into we are going to start talking about our mutant box and things like that. And we have all these campaigns and villains and everything. Have you found it difficult to create like unique player cards or encounter cards for the X-Men that don't just feel like a remix of Avengers or Guardians? I mean, how do you handle that history of game behind you as you move forward?
Yeah, it is a challenge with any card game that as it grows, you eventually find out, okay, we've sort of strip mined this one area of design. We're going to have to find something else, somewhere else to mine. But when you introduce like new factions, that helps to keep it a little easier, because then the question isn't like, how are we going to make just new leadership cards, new aggression cards? Instead, the question is, what do X-Men leadership cards look like, and what do X-Men aggression cards look like? Of course, we always try to put in something that's there for everybody. But overall, it was more about like, how are the X-Men different from the Avengers, different from the Guardians, different from the Champions, and so on.
I remember in the past you referred to that as growing horizontally.
Yeah.
Like rather than like power creep, just add new traits, add new ways of working with cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, trait based.
I'm honestly just a little stunned that someone remembered that, But yeah, I mean that is very true. Still, I'm actually like just a touch proud of myself for thinking that way, because I do think when you start out as a designer, it's very natural to think about just getting more and bigger. Is kind of it's a natural way to think. But I felt like I had enough experience playing different card games by the time that I started at the studio that I already recognized how always just trying to make things bigger and better, more cost effective or more explosive over time will eventually, bring a card game down. It'll eventually you reach a tipping point where the whole house of cards collapses. And so, I made a very deliberate choice. And instead of trying to go up, right, we go out. And we just try to give players different ways to accomplish the same things that keep the game feeling fresh.
Now, the Marvel Champion seems like a very difficult task for this one, especially going back to the other games, the other co-op LCGs. Because Lord of the Rings, you had 8 heroes in a cycle, and a hero is 1 card, And then Arkham Horror has 5 characters per cycle, and again, that's like 3 to 5 cards. Whereas each hero here is 15, and you have that seems like a rather daunting
That's interesting to hear you
challenge.
describe it that way, because I actually feel the reverse. Like, I feel it makes it easier. Because as you're talking about the 8 heroes or the 5 investigators, that just means there's more room in the pack that has to be filled with other stuff that needs to be shared between heroes, between investigators. And it's that shared pool that you really have to keep a close eye on, because once a card goes into that pool, it's part of it forever, and it can be used in anyone's deck. Whereas the heroes and their hero kits are unique to themselves. They're self-contained. And so I don't have to worry about how does Spider-Man's web shooter work with, Cyclops' optic blast, because they never mix. Which gives us a lot of freedom to do the hero kits.
Gotcha.
That's my favorite part, actually. I feel like I can knock out hero kits really fast. Like, once I'm inspired with, I know this character, I know what I want him to do, this is going to be his gimmick, I feel like I can pull those together real quick. It's the aspect cards that we have to think about for a while and say, okay, how does this fit into this whole large pool of justice cards now? How does this one new justice card affect all these others? And that takes more deliberate thought.
Right.
So going into the mutant wave, do you think that you guys have accomplished that that horizontal build instead of adding like mutants with power creep? Do you think the mutants are suffering any power creep, or do you think you've managed to keep everything sort of even up, for the most part? And I mean for like both heroes and villains.
That's kind of a tricky question, because for me, the answer is yes. But there might be players out there who disagree, and they might say it's too strong or it's not strong enough. And I think it's because it just depends on play style and how you approach the game. But that was on my mind, right? As I'm creating the X-Men, I'm not actively trying to make them better than the Avengers. I'm actually more actively checking my bias, because I do love the X-Men so much, and I'm trying to just get honest with myself and step out of my fandom a little bit and be a little more objective to say, okay, Caleb, we know you love the X-Men, and we know you want them to be good. Now, are you making them too good? But overall, my main goal was just like, I want the X-Men to feel like the X-Men. And in my opinion, that's teamwork. That's the thing that they always excelled at over the other teams, was that they live together, they train together, like, they have the danger room, and that's such a big part of who they are. And they live in a school, and they actually like take classes on how to do what they do. I just love how intentional they are about it, where some other teams basically just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, So my goal was, I wanted it to be fair and balanced as much as possible, but more than that, I wanted it just to playing the X-Men should feel like being the X-Men and working together as a team. So that's where, like, kind of the focus on keeping allies around a little longer came from. Was this idea that
Oh, I see. Okay. With the hit points and with all their training.
Yeah, that I'm actually trying to build up my squad.
All those training.
So yeah, that's where all the training upgrades came from, right? And the danger room will go and fetch those if you go to alter ego. So if you spend a little time training, then you can build up your allies, and they'll stick around longer. And some of their abilities, they're not all enters play abilities. Some of them will continue to benefit you from turn to turn. I think the training upgrades and then the game time, right? That's a basic event, so that you could play it with any of the training upgrades. I really like that idea of like, okay, we've trained now, and now it's game time. So you can ready an ally with the training and heal them, and they can activate again. To me, that tells a story that feels very authentic to the X-Men.
Okay, so you really focused in on theme first, beyond like necessarily wanting just look at this cool card. Like you want a card that is going to feel like the X-Men working as a team. I think you have succeeded in that too. I know playing X-Men, it does feel like I want to make an X-Men deck. I almost don't look back at some of the older cards. I want to look at just the X-Men stuff, because it does focus in on that teamwork aspect, and it has a different feel than some of the Avenger cards or Guardian cards, even if they're not role locked necessarily. But yeah,
I do think subconsciously you made Magneto really good.
Like really good as in really hard, or like fun to play, bit of both? Okay.
Really strong is what I meant. But no, he's fun. I've only played him solo so far, which is a different beast.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was not subconscious. That was very, very conscious. He's the last villain in the box, and his history in the comics is that, he's one person who can take down whole teams of superheroes. So I really felt like, the greater sin is to make him too easy. So better that he be hard and fun to play against. And that's the balance that I find challenging sometimes to strike, is I want him to be hard, but I don't want him to be frustrating. Right? You should always have fun, even if you lose.
Yeah, and you want to be able to say, "Oh, I see how I could do this. Let's try and build a new deck and try it again." And that didn't work either, but now I've got another idea and try it again. You want to keep coming.
Yeah, or at least feel like you got close, right? Like, oh man, we were so close. If you didn't draw
it's
that,
always a heck of a fight.
Him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have gone on record on this show telling us that Magneto was your favorite villain. So I want to know who's your favorite X-Men villain that's not Magneto.
That's less clear.
We can't ask you the easy question.
I have to think on that for a second. Yeah, because like Magneto's like the far and away, like, you know what I mean? Like no one comes close. I'm trying to think of like my favorite X-Men story arcs, and who were the villains in those. And it's interesting because sometimes it's not the villains that make the X-Men story arcs so memorable. It's the interactions between the team and what the team is going through, what the individuals are going through, and how they rally around each other. Gosh, what were some great X-Men stories that I liked? I would say Mr. Sinister is really up there. I'm thinking of like he's been behind some like really big X-Men events, and one in particular was the Messiah Complex. Are you guys familiar with that story arc? That was a really cool story arc because I felt like, X-Men, like every other comic, has its its highs and lows. Where when it's high, it's just like it's the best comic out there, and you can't get enough. And then sometimes it just goes through lulls where maybe the team isn't firing on all cylinders, or they just couldn't find the inspiration. I don't know what, but it seemed like the X-Men had been in a lull, and then out came Messiah Complex, where it built off all these stories that came before it. Long story short, the mutant population in the comics was reduced to like a couple hundred mutants. Everybody else was like depowered and not a mutant anymore.
Okay.
And so, mutants were like in danger of going extinct. There was this really profound moment where like they boot up Cerebro to try to find the mutants, and the last time they did it, it was looking at like the solar system, just stars everywhere, little dots all over the Earth. And then they boot it up, and it's like there's barely any spots anywhere on the globe, And then Messiah Complex is this thing of like a new mutant is born for the first time since this catastrophic event. And its birth, it shows up on Cerebro. It's so powerful, like the system like overloads. And so the X-Men are like, we got to go find this mutant. We need to go see what's up. And when they go to investigate, like some evil group has beat them to it and like terrorized the whole town. And so that just kicks off this whole event of like, there is a new mutant baby out there, and all these different parties are after it. You've got the X-Men, you've got Mr. Sinister and his Marauders, you've got the humans that hate mutants, like the Purifiers, and they want it. Everybody wants this child, and so that's where the Messiah Complex name comes from, and it was brilliant. I don't know. I picked it up at a Gen Con, and I like read it on the bus ride home, and that was just a really good memory. So, Mr. Sinister was a big player in that one, and I guess that's why my brain went to him for runner-up.
Sounds
nice.
Good.
For those who are interested, that's published around 2007, 2008, shortly after House of M.
Yeah. House of M was the big event where it ends with the mutant population being decimated.
All right. Should we Well, I guess the follow-up question to that is, has he, if I'm reading this right, Steve, has this guy actually gone on record saying that Cyclops is his favorite? Really?
X-Men hero.
The Tony Stark of the X-Men.
He could have said Cyclops was his favorite non-Magneto villain, but he didn't.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you couldn't choose Cyclops, what would you say your favorite hero is?
For X-Men.
For X-Men.
For X-Men. Yeah. It probably would be Wolverine after that.
Oh, fan favorite.
Yeah, I know it's not a terribly original answer, but the reality is, like, in my opinion, Cyclops has all the best X-Men stories, but Wolverine has all the next best stories. And he's obviously a very iconic character, and I love the way the two of them play often against each other, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like Wolverine too. So the fun thing with Wolverine is us villains, we can just keep beating him up, and he's like a punching bag that just stands back up. He's a weeble, right? Wobbles right back up. We keep going. So he's great.
Nice.
All right, so Cyclops, Wolverine. We have Colossus and Shadowcat, Gambit and Rogue and Storm, and all these great X-Men heroes that everybody likes to play. But there are some that are missing. Iceman, Beast. We've seen Angel has been spoiled and Psylocke has been spoiled or announced. I shouldn't say spoiled, announced on the FFG page.
Yeah.
Can we hold out hope for some of these, like Iceman and Beast? Like, they're so iconic, right? Like,
yeah, that's honestly the hardest part about this job sometimes is choosing which ones to do, because they simply can't do them all at once, you know. And what's crazy too is when you realize, like, how many are missing, and the X-Men itself was a larger than usual wave. We did 8 heroes in the Mutant Genesis wave, where we typically do 6.
Yeah, that was my follow-up. I was going to ask you, how did you choose, and how did we end up with 2 bonus mutants? That's awesome.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. That was something I kind of pushed for.
Thank you.
There was. Well, it's funny because I pushed for it, and then I had to be the one to do it too. So I got to live with my decision, because that was, like I said, it was a larger than usual wave, and I think we did extend the schedule a bit to account for it, so it wasn't like I'm not being a martyr or anything like that. It was just really important to me that the X-Men make a big splash, and that because they are such a team within the books, right, and the way they work together, that I thought it was important that there be 4 X-Men on the day they hit the shelves, so that players could immediately, play a 4-player team of X-Men.
Yeah, that was a great call, because I know we got it at our house, and it was like, all right, everybody pick an X-Men and let's do it. And nobody had to be like, well, I guess I'll play Rocket again or something like that, right? That wasn't going to fit in.
Yeah.
It was a good decision.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, because that was the whole idea. It was just, we know from day one of our announcement at Gen Con, when we first, unveiled Marvel Champions, the biggest question is, when are the X-Men coming? So we kind of knew people have been waiting for this team for a long time, and kind of hoped that meant there might be some people that would, jump on board with their favorite heroes. And so we just wanted to make sure that, we put some extra weight behind it.
All right. I will, I'll cut you some slack and see if Iceman shows up. But if he doesn't, I do know where you live, and I'm coming after you. So,
fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He's always been my favorite since I was a little kid. So.
You might get a cold reception.
Ooh, okay.
Steve, that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to dig into the box a bit more. So, the first mutant box, and we got our 5 scenarios. We got Sabretooth, the Sentinels, the Team One, and Magneto. And this is sparking a memory when we talked with Boggs about the Sinister Six, and we're like, did you just not have enough scenarios and you had too many villains? So you just threw a whole bunch of them in one scenario. Is that what happened with the assault on the school? How do I get the Blob and Toad and everyone in this box?
Yeah, no, that was actually, again, more of a decision based on theme. Because I think if you take any one of those individuals and make them a scenario on their own, it's far less exciting. Like, I imagine if you said, all right, guys, we're going to play Marvel Champions tonight. All right, I'm going to be Cyclops. I'm going to be Wolverine. Who are we going to fight? How about Toad?
Toad, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a good call.
I hope that Wolverine and Cyclops can take down Toad together, you know? So the thing with the Brotherhood of Mutants is that individually, none of them ever been that terribly interesting. But when you put them all together, now it's interesting because they also work together, train together. You know, they've been a team from the beginning. And so, yeah, it was a choice of like, they're a team in the books, let's make them a team in the game. Plus, it allows for more variations of, scenario play styles.
And this is where you introduced teamwork?
Yes.
Right? That's the...
Yep.
Yeah. And that seems like that's going to play nicely when you have these teams of villains, because you're talking about teams of heroes. So, as a villain show, we appreciate that. So,
there's always talk. There's already talk in the community about doing some house rules for other villains that have been released and throwing in teamwork, like the Sinister Syndicate and the Inheritors, and just
the Masters of Evil.
The Masters of Evil.
Yep, Sinister.
I can see it. Teamwork is kind of a brutal keyword, though. That's the thing, is you got to use it sparingly, because those extra activations, those can really add up quick, with the bad draw.
Don't listen to him, kids.
More quick strike, more teamwork, and we're happy on this show.
Yeah. Okay, so this box also did something new, and every box always does, but this one in particular really lets you bend the rules in terms of deck building, because you've got these roles, and you can throw in cards outside your aspect right from scenario one. How did that happen? How did that come about? Because that's unlike anything we've seen so far.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to I gotta follow Boggs. You know what I mean? It's like following Jimi Hendrix on stage. After he lit his guitar on fire. It's like Boggs knew when he was wrapping up the Sinister Motives that was probably going to be his last product, and he's such a huge Spider-Man fan. He just really put a lot of passion and innovation into that product. And then I'm like, geez, I gotta follow that. It had such a cool campaign that I thought, okay, what can I do that won't be too much of a letdown from that one, that feels authentic to the X-Men. And so again, just the team being such a key part of my understanding of the X-Men, I thought it would be fun if each player could assume a role on that team other than leadership, aggression, justice, but maybe something that felt more specific to the X-Men. Like, I think Brawler is one of the options, right? And I just remember Wolverine was always described as the brawler of the team, or the commander is clearly Cyclops or Storm, And so the idea was initially that these roles would be a blend of two aspects in their theme, in how they feel. And then, each one would come with a set of 5 unique cards that you could get once per game, and you use one of these. You're encouraged to use it because you can't save it from game to game. It was meant to help you play your role. And that actually tested pretty well. Like, for the most part, I think people really liked it. But it was actually Nate French, when we showed it to him, he wasn't like hard on it. He thought it was pretty neat, but he didn't think it went far enough. And one of the things he picked up on was, he said, well, if these are a blend of those two aspects, is there a way we could make it like more personal, more unique? Like, could people get access to those aspects somehow? And so that's where that last piece came from that you mentioned kind of early on, where the box allows you to customize your deck and break the deck building rules right from the jump. That came out of that conversation with Nate, where he thought, like, you're almost there, just take it a little bit further.
I really like two aspects of this role building. I love that the cards are the role cards you get are use it or lose it. You don't, right? They don't carry over from scenario to scenario like the ones from Rise of Red Skull did. And you would just sort of bank it until the end and then use them against Red Skull, right? Now it's like you're incentivized to use it. Because I'm the kind of player, like when I play a video game, my backpack is loaded up with potions and junk that I never use because I might need it and I never use it, right?
Right.
I love that this makes me use it. So you're looking for a time that is good within the game to use it, and so that's great. The other thing is that being able to put in that off aspect card based on your role. The three of us on this show, we started talking about, we're going to play a campaign and what role you're going to be. And, I want to be the brawler. Well, I want this role because I want to be able to put in this off aspect card because it belongs to this role. So it really does create an interesting dynamic for multiplayer when you're debating on who gets what role because of that extra aspect that you get to toss into your deck. It opened up a lot of conversation, which is always fun.
That's great to hear.
I had it go both ways for me. On the one hand, it's like playing solo. Oh, cool. I get to shore up the side of my deck and have a fighting chance against some of these more difficult scenarios. Great. Fantastic. It's a lever that you can pull. On the other hand, I pull out my deck and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I have to go back and find my cards again. And because I forgot I could actually put in another aspect.
Oh, sure.
I didn't deck build for it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, you have to make sure you're reading that campaign book really closely, so that you don't miss that if you want to use that piece. So.
Yeah, before you build your deck and go to your friend's place.
Yeah.
What, for you personally, what was the most fun to make for this Mutants box? Actually, the whole cycle.
Like hero, scenario, just anything?
You get to pick. Which one was the most enjoyable design process?
Well, I think people are going to get tired of hearing this answer because it was always going to be Cyclops.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, there was like a 12-year-old me inside that was just so excited that I was designing a Cyclops hero pack and that it was coming together just the way I hoped it would and that people were enjoying it. I feel like every time I bring it up, I have to mention, that MJ hates Cyclops as a character, and probably the best compliment that I've ever gotten on any design was MJ sending me a message after playing Cyclops and saying, "Damn it, Caleb, you made me like Cyclops."
Cyclops has a very sort of different mechanic with those upgrades that you put onto the enemy cards and the ability to go first all the time in a multiplayer game. Those are different things than we've seen before, and that's great. I mean, that must have been an interesting development process or design process, or was it just something that clicked?
The going first. Yeah, the going first wasn't part of my design initially. That kind of came out of the playtest process. My initial thing was I wanted Cyclops to be able to use the optic blast every turn. And this actually goes back to a video game experience that I had back in the 90s where there was like an X-Men game, and it made me so angry that I wanted to be Cyclops, but I could never fire my optic blast. Instead I'm punching and kicking bad guys, and you got maybe 2 shots with your optic blast, and you ran out of energy or something. And I just found that so infuriating. So I wanted my design to be like, you can almost always do it, but it had to be balanced in such a way that he wasn't just OP. And that's where the tactics came from. That if you follow the comics, and one of the reasons that I like Cyclops so much is that he has this tremendously powerful optic blast that can smash tanks and level mountains or whatever. His real power is just his tactical sense. Like he's always seeing stuff before it happens, and he's anticipating the enemy's next move before they've made it. And so that to me is where the two of them come together, and that I got to play a tactic upgrade onto an enemy, and now I can zap that enemy with my blast. So that's the balancing part, is that I can't just zap people every turn. I got to play an upgrade on them first, but then the upgrade is giving me some benefit too. So that was really fun. And then the playtester just noticed, like, hey, if there was some way that Cyclops could play these upgrades before everyone else took their turn, then they could get the benefits too. And so we had some interesting brainstorm sessions about that. And ultimately, out of that, I came up with the idea that, you know what, he should really just go first every time. Just because that's something he would do. He really leads from the front. It's a mix of being courageous and also being kind of bossy.
I was going to say, yeah, he's an attention hog there, but yeah, it's okay. Most of these heroes are, so it's a fun mechanic, and I think that those upgrades those tactic upgrades that you put out there, those are going to be, I think people are always going to want more of those. People want more preparations, right? They want more of whatever the thing is that they like. So those can be those cards. You're like, well, we'll sprinkle in another tactic upgrade 2 boxes down the road or something.
Yeah, kind of like after the core set, everybody wanted more tech upgrades for Iron Man.
Right. Yep. The X-Men stuff looks like it's gonna be great for us. We can't wait to get into it. So let's pretend that you are a mutant and you have your own comic run. Who's your nemesis? Who would be your nemesis? It doesn't have to be a comic character. It doesn't have to be a real life person. Whatever you think is however you'd like to answer.
Oh man, I don't know who actually would be, but I want Michael Boggs to be my nemesis because that would be unceasingly entertaining.
Okay. That's good. So follow up on that. So you've got your own comic run, right? It's at Caleb X or whatever it is. And are you a lone wolf sort of thing, or are you a part of a team? And if you're a part of a team,
I better be part of a team. I'm gonna need some help. What team am I part of? I would be happy to join the X-Men.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, apart from being feared and hated by everyone and always in danger, they got a pretty sweet house. It's got a pool in the back. They got their own jet. There's some perks. They're welcome on several Shi'ar planets. That's legit something I kind of wondered as a kid after reading. Is they were friends with Queen Lilandria of the Shi'ar Empire. Why not just relocate off Earth and go live somewhere where you know what I mean?
Right. How do you put up with it?
The whole empire is a mix of different alien races. No one bats an eye at the X-Men when they're visiting, and it's they got advanced technology and they got all these different worlds to choose from. Maybe just go live on a different planet altogether.
Oh, yeah.
Because home sweet home, Caleb. Home sweet home.
Well, Mike, we have any other questions for Caleb?
I guess we have one more on the list. Don't know who sent this one in.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right. On family game night, do you play your games or other people's games?
I feel like I'm being outed. Is this guy just a total egotist? Is he just only play his own games?
Do your kids know that other games exist?
Yeah. So I have 4 children, and the 2 oldest are 19 and 18, and they live in Arizona with their mom now for the last couple of years. But we did used to have a lot of game nights when they were still prior to COVID, and we would play a lot of different games. But what was funny is a lot of times the ones they wanted to play were the ones that I was working on. And more recently, because my 2 youngest are 6 and 8, they're not playing a whole ton of different games just yet. So my 8-year-old son Peter, he has played my deck builder with me a bunch of times. He likes that one. More recently, he discovered Stratego, and he really likes Stratego. So we've been playing a bit of that recently.
Yeah.
So it's a mix. But yeah, sometimes I think I do favor my own games just because I know the rules really well. I don't have to go and read them again.
I don't have to read the rule book.
You don't have to feel bad about that because on my game night we play your games. So, my 9-year-old really likes the deck building one too, so we play that.
There you
and
go.
Stratego.
Well, and it's funny because when my two oldest were barely more than 8, he would play Twilight Imperium.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. That was pretty fun. Only a couple of times did my oldest daughter agree to do it, but when she did, she was really into it, and it was super fun. She loved getting the speaker role and like reading the new laws. She would like stand behind her chair and tap on it like it was a podium, and then like read in her most proper
Nice.
voice, and then she'd like call the roll for like votes. It was awesome.
That's great. Well, Kayla, it has been great having you here in Spot World off to the side. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for the X-Men wave, and we'll have to have you back on in a couple waves from now, I guess. We'll leapfrog
I was going to
again.
say, am I going to be back on in maybe another year? Is that it?
Well, we'd love to have you come on and talk about Cyclops' nemesis sometime when we get to him.
Sure.
Which is
Mr. Sinister. Yeah, that's my
Mr.
runner-up.
Sinister, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It'll take us a while to get there, but we'll be in touch.
Sure.
But Mike, if you and I jump out of Spot World and we leave him here, then we don't have to hunt him down next time. So, should we just?
Good point.
Yeah.
I think. Whoop 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 whoop.
Oh,
Where are you guys?
All right.
that was good.
Where did you just go?
Spot World.
What does that even mean?
No. Oh,
Spot World, yeah.
it's my new favorite thing. That's great.
Wait, you guys just have another world? What?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have some of these spots from the spot.
What?
You missed it. It's too late now. We can't go back.
2 months ago when I was hopping in while I was on vacation, I was in Spot World.
That's not what your note on the fridge said. All right. Wait, and this is Steve. You know about this place too?
Yeah. I told you I know everything that goes on in the lair. So
it's just me. I don't.
it's just you. Yeah.
I don't-
Well, we'll bring you next time. Okay.
Do you guys promise? Because this is a little hurtful.
Well, all you missed was our interview with Caleb. So
What?
yeah, we had a nice
The
little
Caleb?
sit down. The Caleb Grace, this little chat. Hope listeners enjoyed that. I know we did. So
Good times.
good times.
Now, Steve, earlier, I just want us to forget this. Earlier, you said something about a contest?
Oh yeah.
Or is that in Spot World 2?
No. This
All
is
right.
for everyone.
Okay.
Well, we're getting ready to go into our mutant wave. So what better way to celebrate the mutants than giving away a Mutant Genesis box?
Oh, a kingly gift.
An entire campaign box to one of our loyal minions. Daniel, I think you came up with the criteria, so I think you got to let the folks know.
Yes. Now, obviously, we love how creative you all are, and the stories you send us are so fantastic every time. So here's your question for this contest, folks. What public figure is probably a secret mutant, and how do you know? So that's it. That's the question. Which public figure, probably a mutant, how do you know? Steve, how do they win?
Well, click the link for the Google form, fill it out, make sure you put contact info on there for us to get a hold of you. What we're going to do is the three of us will narrow down, each of us choose our favorite response, and then we will randomly choose from those 3. You've got 1 week from the airing of this show, and then we'll choose.
That's a tight turnaround.
It's a tight turnaround because we want folks to have the Mutant Genesis box in hand as we get going on the show. So you have a week to do it. I'm sure you can manage it.
Absolutely.
Yes. And this box is provided by us. Just
what?
No loyal minions.
Wait.
This is us being kind. I know
That's
it's
why you
not
docked
in-
my pay.
I don't like this at all. This is us giving our own stuff away.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought we used to rummage through the minions' luggage and just give their stuff.
We have, but we've done it so many times. Like folks that come here, they've stopped bringing anything good. So, well, that is a long show. We are over an hour plus the Caleb segment. Wow, we are like hitting the 2-hour mark here, folks, or something. So, thanks for sticking with us. And Mike, if the fine minions out there want to tell us about all the stuff we've talked about, their favorite scenarios, their nemesis, all that kind of stuff, how are they going to do it?
Hey, fine minions, if you want to give us your thoughts, you can email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook. You can find our YouTube channel or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Foam Loaf, and Wandering Took. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Dr. Doom, take us out.
I was a god, Valleria. I found it beneath me.
I had to step away for a child thing. Mike, what was yours? You could obviously edit this out, but if I had something to say to it. Eagles?
Vehicles.
Oh. My Eagles.
Wrong game.
You can find us on Facebook or Patreon or oh, god damn it. My computer's glitching out. The worst part is I'm like, I'm gonna hear this at the end of the episode, aren't I? Every time I make a mistake, oh god.
If I did it every time you made a mistake, the show would never end.
That's true.
Now that's going to make the end of the show.
Wow.
Wow.
Guys, you coming back?